Now, the BBC has been urged to drop its UK Eurovision entrant, Olly Alexander, after it emerged he signed a letter calling Israel an apartheid state. The 33-year-old singer has sparked a backlash for endorsing a statement by an LGBT charity criticising zionist propaganda and accusing the country of genocide. The Conservative Party has said letting an openly anti-Israeli singer compete in next year's contest is a massive oversight, and a Jewish charity has called for him to be replaced. As it stands, it's believed the BBC does not plan to take any action because Alexander signed the letter before he was unveiled as the UK's act. I'm not quite sure.
It's all
what the hell?
That's a rubbish defence.
I have no idea what that means. The first thing, I want to go off on a tangent immediately, so you can say about the main story.
Okay.
The one thing that really annoys me most about that letter, the LGBT letter, is a single one of those signatories turned up in Gaza. Let's see what would happen to them. Are they not aware of how...
You see, I think that's a really... that is actually the central point. Which is so, Olly Alexander, who I've got a lot of time for, years and years, brilliant band, and then he went off solo. I love the acting work that he's done. I think It's a Sin was a, absolute triumph.
It was, yeah.
And he's done a huge amount within that community. He's talked very openly about all sorts of really important issues relating to diet and... body issues and, issues relating to, growing up and mental health, all that good stuff. And I think it sort of shows an element of naivety.
Yes.
That it's a bandwagon on which to jump without thinking about the consequences twofold. If you, as you say, Hamas, they do not have a good record on LGBT issues. Forgetting all the other stuff that might be in terms of,
It's a bit sketchy, isn't it, that really?
It is a bit sketchy. So if you're calling for that... Now, if you're calling for Palestinian people, the poor people who are suffering in the midst of this, let's not forget that 75% of them did vote for Hamas, so you can't even divorce yourself from that.
Yeah.
But let's also look at Israel. As soon as somebody describes Israel as an apartheid state, it means that they don't actually understand the whole concept behind Israel, what it's there for, what the Jewish community is standing for, and why it is so painful to them in terms of everything that's going on and all this stuff that's repeated, whether it's silly phrases like from the river to the sea and all these other terrible things.
This is the point about naivety, isn't it? Because when you stop these demonstrators in the street and say, which river, which sea, all these people are swept along.
No
such
idea
an easy thing to sign.
I don't think it's just about it's an easy thing as well, because actually, if you, I'm sure we've all talked to people and said, just out of interest, why are you here? Why are you supporting this, etc., etc. Then it seems to come down to the fact that we feel sorry for the underdog. And the underdog very much at the moment is the Palestinian people, and the pictures coming out of Gaza are, of course, of Palestinian children and women and men and of course doctors and talking about bombing hospitals and everything. So of course people feel a sympathy. Of course we do.
But that's the key point. That's the key point.
But I'm saying, but that is what we do.
But it's how but it's also how it's been covered by the media. That I don't think we've ever seen a war. We've seen horrific wars. We've seen horrific incidents, and we also know that every time in a media war, when you're trying to battle with the hearts and minds of whether it's the British people or any people, as soon as you see that devastating image of a child either, without its parents or injured or in any shape or form that humanises what's going on without looking at the reasons why that Hamas is putting these poor people in the way, because they've got the tunnels underneath, because they diverted huge amounts of aid into those tunnels, into weapons, into armament.
It is such a complex issue, but it also kind of, I think, goes to this whole kind of celebrity endorsement.
Well, I was just going to make that point.
There are these quite funny tweets which says, the local municipal council in Monte Cristo has today condemned Israel. Benjamin Netanyahu's now huddled with his key advisors.
Right.
I mean, why do these people put this stuff out?
I don't know much about... maybe it's a Eurovision thing. Maybe he's got swept up. Do you remember when Bucks Fizz played a private gig for Idi Amin?
No.
They didn't. I made that up. But,
Did you notice how all of us, our jaws dropped out?
Thank God I didn't bluff it. Yes, of course.
It was Kim Jong-il. But the idea that, I'd like to sit Olly... Is it Olly Alexander?
Olly Alexander,
I'd like to sit Olly down and do an interview with him about Middle Eastern politics and Israel and ask him about, can you name the river? All of that stuff.
Yeah.
And I've got, instinctively, my gut is telling me that he'd probably be pretty clueless on this.
Yeah, completely.
Well, it's almost become... It's a fashionable thing now. This is the cool side to be on, isn't it? And it doesn't require any foundation of any knowledge of whatsoever.
Right.
I mean, I think the other... it's been extraordinary to watch how Israel has effectively lost the PR battle over all of this. And I mean, I suppose on a very simple level, one of the problems they've got is that their tragedy, although those affected are still living it every day, was fortunately, in some sense, the immediacy of it was over quite quickly. Whereas the Gaza tragedy, you can see it every single day in new developments.
But also
the
every
media
single day,
always wants the new developments.
every single day you can see the new casualties too.
Exactly.
Whereas, you know, that horrific incident on October the 7th, you just saw the aftermath and then the bodies and that was it, and we moved on.